Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Stylosa and I've just read a very interesting interview Jeff Kaplan performed with VG247, and the interview leads with this title: Overwatch Competitive's percentile based skill rating was a mistake, says director. Now obviously Jeff is the director, and he goes on to say, we realised a mistake I think we made was picking the percentile based system. Ours goes 1 through 100, so obviously if you're rank 1 you're at the bottom, rank 100 is at the top. I don't know about you, but I grew up in North America and anything less than an 80 was not good. I didn't want to get that in school if it was less than an 80. That kind of doesn't make sense. I didn't want to get that in school if it was less than an 80. I really wanted scores in the 90s, and if I was in the 60s, well, maybe I wasn't passing. Whereas in our system, now that the dust has settled, I've realised actually a player with a 60 skill rating is a super badass in our system. So let's talk about this, and let's talk about ratings, because I've got an interview coming up with a player who is rank 45, and obviously as I've recorded this video I'm rank 66, so there is quite a big difference there. But let's just talk about the ranks and talk about sort of the skill distribution, because it's not really like the difference between a 66 and a 70 is not a lot, but the difference between a 50 and a 55 is a hell of a lot. So there's a website called Overbuff. There is also a website called Master Overwatch which you can use. But just for the sake of this, I'm going to use Overbuff, and I'm going to look at my own statistics. Now, what Overbuff does is it ranks you based on your skill rating compared to other players within its system. So, if I look at my skill rating, I'm 66, okay? So when you look at my rank in Overwatch, I'm ranked 66. But according to Overbuff's complete statistic database, that puts me in the 96th percentile. That means I'm in the top 4% of players in their database. So that's a very high rank. Now, when you look at people who are rank 50, that is a much, much lower rank. But the game doesn't really reflect that. And also, it doesn't really reflect that rank 66 is actually a really good rank. Or, I mean, let's just use 60 as the ballpark figure, because 60 is still a really good rank. That's most likely top 12, top 13, top 14% or something like that. Maybe top 15%. That's still really good. You know, if we were to break this down into, I guess, use StarCraft 2 as a metric or a measuring stick, that would probably be high masters, grandmasters kind of level, right? That sounds impressive, doesn't it? It's like, yes, I am grandmasters, I am this. In Overwatch, you've just got a number next to your name. And the way the system's working right now, the very best players in the world, so people like, well, I guess Tavik. Last time I looked, Tavik was at the top, and I think he had a skill rating of 86 at the time. 86, to me, is impossible to reach, right? You have to be a pro gamer. But it's not 90, is it? It's not grandmaster, it's just 86. Yeah, it sounds high, but it doesn't sound that high. Then 60 looks kind of mediocre, right? Like, I had discussions with players who are in the 50 band, like, so between 50 and 60, and they think they're mid-range players. But in reality, if you're like 56, 57, 58, you're like a higher tier player. You are, you know, you're in the best players in the world, really. You're not a lower tier player. Yet if you're like rank 45, you're really at the bottom, and you can see the distribution. It isn't it kind of doesn't make sense, right? So you would think 45 to 50 is not much of a jump, but actually it's a really big jump. And as I say, you can work this out if you go to overbuff.com, put in your name, your Battle.net tag, or I think you can search by your name on this site, and it will bring up your stats, and look at your competitive stats, look at your skill rating, and look at your skill rank that it gives you. Now obviously Blizzard have got access to this kind of information, because websites like Overbuff and Master Overwatch, all they do is use Blizzard's stat collecting API, which you can connect to and pull information from. So Blizzard has this information. Now what Blizzard need to do is need to convey in a much better way what your rank is and where you actually are, because they've got a really hard problem here. Don't get me wrong, guys, this isn't something that's very easy to solve, because on the one hand you've got the rank 60 player who's a really good player, but it's rank 60. It doesn't sound very impressive. I mean, on paper there's 40 more ranks above that, so that's not very good, right? They need to do something to reflect that player's achievement. On the other hand, you can't just give somebody a rank of 50 and then they think that they're sort of mid-range, when actually that's much lower than mid-range. It's a very hard thing to work out. What I want you guys to do in the comments is let me know what your skill rank is on Overbuff, so we can get an idea as to the distribution that's going on. Also, do remember, I have a video coming out which is an interview with a rank 45 player, because I've not been, I haven't experienced the game at that level. I've only really been playing with my friends or playing in solo queue, and now that I'm like closing in on 70, everybody has like a very good understanding of the game, and it seems that at the lower levels it can be a little bit frustrating. But that's coming out in another video, and I do ask some great questions of you guys, the viewers, so try to hold back a little bit for that video when it comes out. But I just thought this would be very interesting, because it is clear that Jeff and the Overwatch team, they understand the game does not reflect your skill very well. It gives you a rating, and that's fine, but a rating of 66, which is my rating, doesn't sound that good, but actually it's in the top 4% of players. So yeah, it's pretty good, you know? It's not terrible. I mean, that's really good, let's be honest. Yeah, if you had a rank of 60, it's not impressive, or 66, or 59, or 57, or if you've got a rank of 48, 45, you might think, well, I'm actually kind of average, but really you're not. And how do they balance this? How do they, like, the worst thing you can do to a player is say that they're bad. I don't like to be called bad. None of you guys like to be called bad. So how do Blizzard get around this issue? It's such a complicated issue. Like, do they go back to a system of just giving you a tier? So you reach a tier and then, like, you become elite, you know, professional, master, whatever. You know, so they all sound great. None of them really sound bad, and it's fine. That's kind of how the Overwatch competitive ranked system did work in the old days, before they suddenly decided to come out with the skill rating system, which, I've got to be honest, was a shock to me. I didn't ever expect to see that in Overwatch. I think it's a good thing, because you can directly compare yourself much better. Because honestly, playing when you're just going up into tiers, so if I was like, I don't know, Grandmaster or whatever, and there was a load of other Grandmaster players out there, it'd be very difficult to work out how better these other players actually were. Whereas with the rating system, you can straight up see, you know, if I join a game and there's a rank 70 in the game, that is a better player than me. I'm only 66. We know that player's better, or should be better than me. Yeah, there are arguments for, okay, they could have been carried and all of that stuff, but the fact is, that is a better player than me. Yet if we were all just Grandmaster once we got over 60, then it would just be like, we don't really know who we're playing with. But I don't know, it's an endless argument, this is. And on the one hand, I'm all for this kind of rating system, but on the other hand, I don't want people to feel shitty when they play Overwatch. I don't want to feel shitty when I play Overwatch. Guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. It is a massively complicated issue, and I'd love to see what your thoughts are on this. I have been Stylosa, so you can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming. If you like the video, then like the video, and all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you next time, guys. Toodaloo.